Right. So thank you, everyone, for joining here with us today on this Thursday afternoon with an event co-hosted by UTMIST and Korbit AI. So my name is Richard, and I'm the co-president here at UTMIST. I'll be give a few words on UTMIST before I hand it over to Korbit AI to continue. So UTMIST is an academic student organization at the University of Toronto, founded in 2017. So we stand for University of Toronto Machine Intelligence Student Team. And our mission is to basically provide opportunities for students and the public to get involved and ultimately to clear the myth around machine intelligence. So we pursue many initiatives throughout the school year. We have multiple talk series, such as our academic talk series, where we invite distinguished researchers to share the latest breakthroughs and applications related to machine intelligence. We also have teams of developers working on exciting projects throughout the school year. This year, we're working on detecting out of distribution samples, hand gestures on controlling web browsing, teaching machines to play Cards Against Humanity, and also transferring the style of music from one piece to another, and many more. So you can learn about our projects on our website. In this chat, I think Shazia shared the presentation slides, which contains all of the links that you see here, including contact and social media. What I recommend is for you to join our Discord server, which has a community of around 500 machine learning enthusiasts, and we can share our discussions and we can share the upcoming events so you don't miss any. So today we are here with the second talk of our new series called the Entrepreneurship in AI, where we invite founders to share their technologies and their startup journeys. So our third talk will be delivered featuring Sync Review, one of the most highly regarded media agencies for emerging tech, who performs an in-depth analysis of trends and outlook for AI industries. We also have an upcoming talk by AMD on how AMD is leveraging artificial intelligence and machine learning to automate all process of gameplay testing. So if you're interested in this, you can join us next Tuesday, February 23rd at 5 p.m. So without further ado, we'd like to hand it over to Huda, who will be presenting, giving an introduction about Korbit AI. Thank you.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm Huda. I'm the community manager here at Korbit, and I'd like to welcome you all to this workshop that is partly hosted by Korbit Technologies. So for the next hour, we will be talking everything AI and data science. First, we will be having an entrepreneurial talk on how Korbit Technologies came to be as an ED tech startup, given by Korbit's very own co-founder, Ansona Ching. We will then be moving on to a talk given by our data scientist, Sabina Elkins, about the importance and significance of knowledge and skills in data science that is played in today's job market. This will then be followed by an introduction to data preprocessing, data cleaning, and feature engineering. There will be a question period reserved for the end of each session. So if you want, you can jot down your questions, put them in the chat, or I don't know if you're able to unmute yourself and speak, but if you're not, just jot them down in the chat and I will read them out loud, and they will be answered by either Ansona or Sabina. So yeah, without further ado, I will now hand it off to Ansona to start the entrepreneurial talk about how Korbit came to be as an ED tech startup, the motivations behind it, and what it takes to basically start a startup. So yeah, here I'll hand it off to Ansona now. Enjoy.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. My name is Ansona Ching. I'm one of the co-founder of Korbit. So thank you for having me to share the entrepreneurial journey with you guys, but I'm not actually like quite a speaker. So if I miss anything, like feel free just ask the question at the end. How we started, like Korbit was actually back like when I was really, really young. I was like 14. Of course, I'm not starting startup at 14, no crazy. But why I like about education was because I was actually kind of like being bullied a lot when I was 14. I was in the elite school. My parents want me to be like some kind of successful businesswoman. That's why they checked me into elite school. But I was bullied badly. I was like a bad news to the teacher because I was not able to perform, and nobody really take care of me. I could not really perform well. So I failed my first public exam. So in where I came from, like we had two public exam. One was to go to high school, which is your CJEP, and then afterward is CJEP going to university. And so I failed the first one. So you could imagine like I was such a loser. I'm not going to university at all, but I was actually accepted by another school. They gave me a second chance and I was able to pass the second public exam. That's why I was in university and that's why I was here, right? But why was that? Why? What was the problem of education? And at that time, I actually figured was the differences between the first school and the second school was the second school, the teacher, they were really, really willing to do one-on-one to the student. Like, because like in the high school, like the class size was much smaller and they were more like, they're willing to sit down with me and then ask what actually my problem was. And my problem was not just depression and suicidal thoughts, all those things, was actually I did not really understand how like point one go to point B, like point A to point E, and then point B to point C. And nobody actually explained to me when I was 14 until I went into a school which was the worst school in the whole district, only accept very underprivileged children. And those teachers actually had the patience to sit down with me and reason with me. And afterward, I understand a lot. So so at that time I told myself, okay, now I was like able to check in university was because some teacher they were really patient and they were really kind to me. How about other kids? How about other teenagers who also need help? Will they be really lucky enough to get teacher like as if what I did? I doubt it because the whole education system was actually putting students together into a like class and then just gave them like the same thing and then asked them to study. And there's no personalization, there's no really caring, and there was no reasoning at all. And that's why when I was in university, I was still volunteering like in my high school, which is like for underprivileged kids. And I sit down with them and taught like languages like Chinese, English, also music. I trying to make them to understand what is the importance of those like knowledge and also like help them to apply in their daily life. They can speak some dirty language in English and they found that was interesting because that's what they want to do most of the time. And anyway, so that's how I passed my like I went to university and then I volunteer. And I at that time I thought like maybe I should just do a master's degree and then also like a PhD afterward because I wanted to be a professor. I want to teach in university and I want to help like students who actually struggled. But however, at the end, I did not really end up become professor. I ended up become co-founder of Korbit was because I met Julian. And Julian is a guy I date at that time. And we were, our first day was in Starbucks. And we were not talking anything else. We were not talking about TV series or whatever. Like two kids sit together, and he was talking about his thesis was about how to teach the robot to play chess. And that's how we started. And we were eating Subway sandwich, like, oh, that's interesting. Robot can play chess. And we date, and we found each other. We married, and we came all the way in Montreal. And he studied under Joshua Banjo. Then it came to a question that what will be our future like? And he said like, oh, I can work in AI company and earn a lot of money. Is that what you want? He asked me. And I said, no, I think earning a lot of money is not like interesting enough. I mean, you have a great knowledge in your hand. You should make use of it for social good. Then we were thinking about, okay, let's do a startup about something can do good for the society. Then we come up to two ideas. One is education and another one is climate change. And, you know, climate change is such a huge problem right now. And there's not a lot of resources going there, but it is really, really important for all of us for our survival. But why we did not do climate change was because we need to be realistic. Startup need to be funded, and how much funding we can get from there. And like we probably can become NGO. We probably struggled. And probably we could not even bring a huge impact before we die. So then at the end, we just like maybe just do education because like we bring education to people, high quality, and maybe it would change how people think about problem like climate change. So then we consulted Joshua Benjo, of course, and Joshua was 100% like supporting us and just say, just go ahead because people do need that. Everyone talk about AI, everyone talk about data science right now, but they actually don't really have fundamental knowledge to go there. And so then like, well, maybe people need some more data science training before they even went into talking about AI. So that's how Korbit started. And we are doing like data science training in a personalization way. Because first of all, like education is about communication, right? Without communication, I just stuff you a bunch of lectures and videos like our competitor do. Maybe you'll learn something, but I'm not sure if you are going to apply it or not. Then we are not good teacher. We are not good trainer. Imagine like, for example, Sabina and also Sabina colleagues, they are such good data science teacher. They want to tell you how actually use a data science in your day life. But Sabina cannot split herself into 100 Sabina just to teach 100 students. It is not effective. That's why we need AI. That's why we have our own machine learning team, just to make an AI tutor able to talk to millions of students at the same time, but actually like based on Sabina and her colleagues' knowledge in data science. So that's how Copy started. Nothing fancy, but based on personal experience and what we actually trying to do for the society, and that's it. And Huda told me that a lot of you actually want to do a startup, or at least work for startup. Is such a fascinating place. And I would just give you some really, really like real advice. Like, and for me, from my experience, I used to work for 7 startups. Like, it's really crazy. And some of them volunteer, some of them I work part time before I even check in. I'm my real job. My previously I was a journalist, so before I was journalist, I was already working in startup. There's like 2 types of startup, but mostly 2 type of founders. One type of founder is they were really talented people and they have really good knowledge, but they need a lot of funding from the investor, but they play their card right. So at the end, they got money coming in, and so that's why the startup survive and survive and become young company. And another type of startup is they were found by very rich people. And I'm not saying they don't have skills, but they have a little bit less struggle. But both kind of startup, they can survive was not because of money, was because of good people. Talents are the most important part of a startup. I mean, like of course, like Julian has the knowledge of machine learning. He studied with Joshua Bengio, and well, just with that name, we could check a lot of talents, right? And then I have my personal experience. I have the passion in like doing education and then like with the startup and bring the knowledge to people. But that is not enough. It's always about talent. The turnover rate in a startup is usually really high. You could imagine it's like more than 50%. So like maybe this team have 4 people and the next year you won't see even 2 of them still staying there. So make sure when you hire or when you work with people, if you really want to start up, make sure you have a right team, the right fit. Because startup work really fast, like move fast, very fast, like a high speed train, and sometimes run into people and boom, and people can't survive. It's just the way it is. And I would say also like some people think, oh, startup meaning, well, a lot of freedom. And startup has a lot of freedom, but the freedom is like not, well, you can work less this week and work a lot next week. You technically, steadily, you work a lot. That's what startup life is. But then you say, why I would like go to startup then? Are you crazy? Like working 50 hours per week and then ruining your own marriage and then also relationship with people. Maybe you don't see your friends anymore. I would say like because it's worth it. Because where if you work in a big company, your contribution is really limited because they actually limit your contribution so that you don't ruin their things. But in startup, yeah, we will give you a chance to show what you can go. And then it's very experimental and at the same time data driven. And if it fail, we move on another plan. So you always can try a lot of things and you probably will get promoted if you're really skilled. And probably in a big company, you are still an intern after 2 years. But in startup, probably you already become a manager. Okay, maybe not as get as much pay as the big company, but well, between money and experience, you need to make a choice. Startup is like that. Like you probably get a lot of experience, but not so much money. If you care about to get a house, getting a house here in Montreal can be quite tricky. If you care about getting a house, then maybe you should go through the normal path, like working in a big company, get enough experience, and then you go back to startup, which like asking for a higher salary because you already have experience, and instead of just starting startup right away. Because if you start startup right away, please be prepared. You are going to have very little money and you work a lot, and then there's a lot of uncertainty. But well, in startup world, it's like more you bet, and it's just like a gambling thing. It's like an investment. You bet on a young company, and you hopefully what you're holding is become like a huge harvesting time. So, but not trying to discourage you, but warn you that only 1 out of 5 startup will survive more than 5 years. So make sure your idea is original and you're skillful enough. You get the right people and you're going to really put yourself 100%, 200% in to make it happen. If not, it really does not worth it. Thank you. So that's all.
Thank you so much. It was really, really inspirational. If I just can ask one more question, what would you say is the main thing that a startup can do to motivate your employees and always keep them wanting to work hard and achieve the main mission of a startup?
Yes, so Korbit is a little bit different from other startup, and if I'm like a Bitcoin startup, I would just like, hey, you're going to earn a lot of money next year. Just come work for money. But Korbit is like a very mission-based startup. We have a mission that to serve the knowledge to the mass. So we always trying to explain to our people that, hey, you are not just working for money. You're actually working for a lot of people, social good. And if some people they cannot see this is like a benefit, they would slowly just like, no, you know what, I would just go elsewhere to earn my big money. And no offense, no nothing. I mean, at the end, you need to be honest with your employee and with your teammate. What are you going to achieve? And if some people just looking for a lot of money, is not going to achieve right here. I know AdTech is a hard thing, and I love people maybe swinging. You're so lucky. You're doing like an AdTech startup, amazing. But no, we have been thinking about education for 20 years. It's not like a lucky thing. It's just something we like to do. And we are willing to be success or even fail on it because that's something we want to do. And we share this idea with our employee. It's just like, well, we are on the same ship. And need to be honest with you. If you don't think that is a mutual benefit between you and me, then maybe this is a wrong fit and we need to either we adjust for you or you adjust for us, and we need to find a way. So I guess that is something really different between Korbit maybe with other bigger company, because when you work for a big company you fit in and it's not the company will not move for you. But for our company, we will try to adjust the way that to make sure you work for us is something meaningful for you, for your career growth, or for your even like your life goal. If your life goal is like also social good, that's is amazing. But if your life goal is not there, but actually you're just trying to do a career with us, it's also fun with us. So yeah, mutual benefits is something we're trying to create and then motivate the team.
Thank you so much, Ansona, for the talk. If you guys have any questions regarding what it's like working for a startup or anything related to machine learning and basically EdTech as a whole, please shoot them in the chat, and I will be reading them as okay. First question in. So, what would you say is the biggest obstacle to a startup succeeding? From Preet.
Well, like depends how you define obstacle, right? Do you mean like challenge or like difficulties? Like what do you exactly mean?
So Preet is asking, I'd say some sort of a challenge. So,
Yep.
so yeah, challenges that you faced throughout the way of
Well,
starting a
we
startup.
yeah, starting a startup or like okay, succeeding. I would consider you mean like how to make it survive, right? Like not like die in the middle of the. There's a lot of things. I will. I think the most important thing is you really need to hire the right people. And there are a lot of talented people everywhere, especially in Montreal, but not necessarily they are the right fit. Like for example, if they don't care about education, then that is not a right fit. Or like they just trying to get a lot of huge money, like within 2 years. Like sorry, we really can't promise you that, because as a startup, there's a lot of uncertainty. Talent is our number one challenge. And imagine we are fighting challenge with IBM, fighting challenge with Google Brain, fighting the talent with like AI, Element AI, but it does not exist anymore. So that's and yeah, we this is one of the biggest challenge. Another challenge is of course you need to really have like a market fit. Why? If our product has no one to use it, how are you going to persuade the investor to give you money to survive? You can't even persuade government to give you money to fund your project. It just does not work. And so market fit is really, really difficult. I saw a lot of stuff. They have brilliant ideas, brilliant like talents. At the end, they cannot find a market fit. What happened will be they were bought by other big company, like they become small company under Google, small company, and but Microsoft also you will consider that is some kind of success because founder will still earn a few $1 million out of that, honestly. Right. But that's not what Korbit trying to do. Korbit don't want to be bored, not within 5 years. We want to survive as an individual so that we hold our mission in our hand instead of like giving it to, let's say, Google and then become part of Google Classroom is not what we want. So that is our challenge. Our challenge is like because we are so concerned about our mission, we don't want to divide. So we work really hard to get our market fit. And we were really lucky, for example, to have Hooter to help us to promote like our mission to the university and you guys are interested in our product. That's why you are here. And and we are really like if you guys are really willing, please try out our product and tell us what you think because we want to know more about you. So to find out if how can we improve our product to fit the market.
Okay. Thank you so much. We have a second and third question. So the second question is, how was your journey like in securing your first rounds of funding?
Yeah. Okay. So we were selected. We went into CDL. If you know, like, actually in Montreal, like, if you study here, then that's it. There are a lot of resources. You can check in a lot of startup bootcamp, and there's several. Like, I don't want to name them because I don't know if that is appropriate. But like, for example, the biggest one is like Creative Destruction Lab, CDL, and they really tell you what exactly the investor are like. They are like monster. and they will tear you apart. When you were there, like you went through a lot of rounds, you thought, ah, my idea is so amazing. And then when you stand in front of an investor, you look like a little kid. And they're just like, why we need to invest in you? And that's great because that's this reality check. And then you know you need to do better. And to be good enough to get the first round. We call pre-seed round, if you know. So the seed round is the money that you can survive for 1 year. And pre-seed round actually technically you need to staff yourself to survive another 1 year. So pre-seed 1 year is usually around 20K to 50K. It's not a lot of money. So you technically work without money and you pay other people work for you with very low salary. So how to secure the first round is like you have a solid idea and you have a sample and it's persuasive and you get into those what is that called? Like the bootcamp thing for young startup, then you win the competition and then you will have that. And then make sure you persuade 1 or 2 talented people work for you very low salary. Then you are actually the first year you will be okay. But then the second year is more tricky because you want to have a seed round. You don't want to have another 50K. You want to have $2 million in your hand. So you need to have something to show. At least you need to show part of your product is working. For example, for us software, we have our first course with Mila, with Joshua Benjo. And so that's why it helped us really a lot. But we also show we have a lot of people sign up, start from the beginning. And that is a success, and that's something we can show the investor, and that's why they gave us money to survive for another 2 years. And now we're raising our Series A. So Series A is about market fit. That's what I'm talking about. So if your product cannot sell, cannot earn money, don't talk to the investor. They're not interested. They're not interested to fund you. So a lot of stuff actually die just there. After the seed round, they cannot pass the Series A because the investor is not interested if the things can't earn money. So you really need to make sure of that. So what's the next question? What would you suggest?
It's from Pia. So what resources or tips would you suggest to someone who is a beginner in the field of AI or ML?
If you're a beginner and you want to work in a startup or you want to start a startup, it's probably not a perfect idea because we used to receive a lot of application from like talented students. They score really high GPA and then tell me, hey, I want to work for you even for free. And okay, just tell you this, it is not legal for us to hire anyone for free. Okay, don't ask me, don't even ask me that, I don't want to know. But if someone hire you for free, make sure it is not legal. Okay, deal with this. And yeah, I would suggest you to really have like a solid reasoning, like because a lot of people, they have this knowledge of AI or machine learning, but they don't have a solid reasoning. So you make sure like you have like a good project to show before you approach like the employer. For example, in GitHub, you show what is your project, because sometimes, okay, I know you're very talented, but you're telling me you're talented. How would I know? I have no idea. I asked your teacher, of course, they're 100% supporting, right? They're very nice people. And so like the code is to show how possible you are going to transferring your knowledge to a startup. Because in a startup, there's no time for us to train you, but you want to be with us, right? You want to learn a lot. And so you at least have some basic, you're a very like basic thing, you know how to apply your knowledge on the job, and you can manage the project. You need to show that before you even check in. So in your okay, another thing, the cover letter matters. Don't just randomly send your resume to their employer. No, because they are not going to go through it. The cover letter show how much you know about the industry, show how much you want to code, show how much you want to apply your knowledge, matter a lot. And we usually will take in those students for interview. So that's my advice. But I don't know about other stuff. Maybe other stuff are nicer. Maybe we are just being very strict. I don't know. Yeah. I'm a grade 12.
Okay,
12.
last last question is quite long.
Yeah, grade 12, high school internet. It's very long. Our first objective is to make a website for newborn. Oh yeah, you can get the funding. I'm not a PR as well. I'm still on my way to applying for the PR, unfortunately. But yeah, your idea, you need to be flesh it out because it's not a lot of detail. And yeah, like I already saw a similar startup before, and you need to make sure like your website is good enough to call as a startup, because a lot of people call themselves a startup, but actually their idea is just like not original and fresh enough, so it's just become like a new company, and then you need to fund yourself, and then it's not fun. Like, you want people to fund you, right? So like make sure there is some kind of innovation inside your idea, and make sure you find some people to do with it, and that will be easier for you to get the funding, because getting funding in Canada or in Quebec is not difficult. But you need to know that they appreciate the innovations inside, not just creativity, but innovation in tech, and helped like you need to emphasize the Canadian benefit. So like everything you do is like going to help job market, help people to upskill and reskill, and yeah, like that, or like medical services, that sort of stuff. Like you need to think more. And I would suggest maybe you go into some kind of website like MEI, Ministry of Education or Innovation, and they have a lot of funding. Open it, open the application, have a look of actually what they're asking for. Then you suddenly realize, okay, if I want to get funding, at least I need to have those. I need to fulfill those conditions, right? If I don't have those conditions, don't ask for funding, because you're just throwing your time into garbage bin. So you don't want that.
Okay, thank you so much, Ansona. That was very, very insightful. So that is the end. Oh, Kiara actually has a follow-up. Do you know how I can apply under an entrepreneurship immigration pathway through my startup? Having it
Yes,
approved
you can.
by designated.
Yes, you can, but you need to get the accelerator. You know, the like Techstar or CDL, or university who actually back you up. And then here in Canada, then you can apply for the entrepreneurial program to get your PR. And the process usually 1 year at least. And that's what I'm going through right now.
Okay,
That's
great.
it.
Thank you. Okay, thank you so much. Okay, so that was the end of the entrepreneurial talk and the question period for the entrepreneurial talk. We will now be moving on to the section concerning data science application in the real world. And I will hand it off to Sabina so that she can begin the presentation.
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Ansona. That was a really lovely talk. Give me a second to share my screen. I will say right now that I'll probably try to go through this talk a little quick, because we only have until 2, I believe, unless I'm told that we can stay longer. And I'd like to show you all the platform, which comes at the end of the third part. So somebody please confirm for me if they can see my slides. All good? Okay, great. All right, so let me just organize myself 1 second. All right, so hi everybody. My name is Sabina, and I'm a data science teacher and a content creator at Korbit. And I'm here today to talk about data science, which I'm sure you can gather by the title and all that. And you've already heard about Korbit through Ansona's talk, so I'm going to look a little bit more just at data science itself outside of Korbit and what it is and where it can take you. But before I'll do all that, I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, which is that I'm a recent graduate from McGill University in cognitive science, which, if you don't know, that degree is kind of like the study of how humans and machines think. And I will be starting, hopefully, a master's degree in 2021 centering on natural language processing, which is a branch of AI, and I'm planning to do it with Korbit, which is going to be great fun. So about 4 years ago, I took some introductory computer science classes, and I really just fell in love with it. And I started on my path towards data science. So I'm sure that many of you, if you're students at U of T, are having similar experiences and are studying in similar classes as to what I have taken. So I started working at Korbit this past spring in 2020, and I've really loved my time here. The work I do is in content creation, so making teaching videos, making exercises, and solutions that are existing on our platform currently. But enough about me, let's move on to our big question of this talk, which is, what is data science? So I'm sure that a lot of you have an idea or even a lot of existing knowledge on the matter. But in case you don't, and for those who don't, we're going to look at it together from the basics. So for starters, data science is a branch of computer science. Wikipedia says that it is an interdisciplinary field that uses scientific methods, processes, algorithms, and systems to extract knowledge and insights from many structured and unstructured data. But that's pretty vague and wordy, so I will describe it to you in this way. I'm just going to say that data science is the field that is concerned with extracting knowledge from data. So it's important to note that data science extends miles beyond just exploratory data analysis of a data set. It includes things like using machine learning to control robots and predicting patterns of climate change and furthering genetic research. Really, data science sits at the core of most of the cool innovations made in the field of computer science today. Moreover, data science extends beyond the field of computer science into many other fields that aren't strictly based in computer science. So for some examples, in the healthcare field, data science is being used to help predict the presence of tumors and other diseases, as well as things like predicting the spread of diseases, which is particularly relevant to us in these days of coronavirus. In marketing, data science is being used to understand more about a company's client base and to perform something called predictive marketing, which can help companies maximize their output. And then also the educational field is benefiting from data science, as you can plainly see with our example of Korbit. These are just a few examples, but my main point that I want to convey is that data science is really everywhere these days. So if all I've said thus far is not encouraging you to learn about data science, then I will add this, which is that data science makes you employable. So in 2016, IBM predicted that there would be 2.7 million jobs for data scientists in the US alone in 2020. And so this prediction was obviously affected by the pandemic, but the data science job market is still booming. And you should note also that this huge number is reflected around the world. It's not isolated in the US of A. And there are massive demands for employees who are confident with their data science skills around the globe. And in fact, despite a downturn market, and a global pandemic, my most recent search for data scientist jobs in Canada on LinkedIn popped up over 4,000 open positions. So you can see that there's clearly a huge job market booming for this field. And then beyond being employed as a data scientist directly, having a background in this field will bump up your chances of getting a job in machine learning or AI or robotics or any other number of insanely cool computer science fields. And as such, sophisticated knowledge of data science is going to improve your career, whether you work as a data scientist directly or within another field that is trying to apply tools that data science can provide. All right, so let me geek out for a second here and show you just a few of what I think are the coolest things going on with data science right now, and they are directions you can take data science. But I encourage you to do some Googling for yourself and find exciting developments of data science that pertain to your interests, because I'm only just going to give a few off the top of my head that I really like. So as I mentioned about my master's, One really cool application of data science that is obviously near and dear to me is natural language processing. And this is a subfield of machine learning, and it uses text type data to let you do things like make intelligent chat robots like Korbit, or to translate text between two different languages, which is called machine translation. And it also lets you talk to Alexa or to Siri. Another super cool application of data science is in the field of genomics. So here, data science can help with isolating genetic markers of diseases. It can help with the study of evolution through genomic similarities. And it can even help with more traditional biology-related tasks, like figuring out how amino acid chains are folded properly into proteins. And then another classic example of data science is robotics. So there are tons of cool techniques in robotics that rely heavily on algorithms that come from machine learning and come from data science. So these can help you program and control robots to do everything from assemble a car in a factory all the way to driving around on Mars. So as I've said, data science is really at the cutting edge of the computer science field at the moment. Gaining knowledge and experience in this field is going to help you start your career. And employers and supervisors are looking for people who are well-versed in this field for everything from university research positions all the way to tech giant jobs to industry startups like Korbit. Okay, so in summary, data science is an expanding field, and it is providing a massive opportunity for young computer scientists to attain positions not only in computer science, but in other fields who are relying upon the tools that data science can provide. And again, I'm going to encourage you to do some Googling, since what I've highlighted in this presentation is only just barely scratching the surface of where data science can really take you. And I'm going to ask for some questions now, and then we'll move on a little bit to talk about what we want to explore on Korbit.
Yeah, so the floor is now open for questions. Any questions related to AI, data science, and what you can do with it in the workplace? Sabina is here to answer your questions regarding that. And if there are none, then we are going to move to the data pre-processing part of the workshop, which I'm guessing a lot of you are here for.
Yeah, and you can write any questions that pertain to this first part of the talk that I kind of flew through pretty quick at any moment, and I will answer them later. I just wanted to get to the data processing part because I think that will be interesting to everybody.
Okay, I'll give it a minute. And if there are none, then we will move on right away. Okay, so looks like there are no questions for now. So we will be moving on to the part of data preprocessing, where Sabina will explain what it is, and she will also demo data preprocessing, that's a mouthful, on the Korbit platform. Sabina,
Okay.
you may now have the floor.
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen again, but just to give you an idea of where I'm going. Oop. Sorry, give me 1 second. I have to close my presentation and reopen it. But I will share my screen again, and then we can discuss. I'm going to present a little bit of the initial definitions and ideas in data preprocessing, and then I will jump over to a bit more of a conversational aspect and go through a module that actually exists on Korbit, so you guys get to experience what our startup is actually looking like. And I will hopefully ask for some engagement with you guys as we go through this submodule on our platform so we can answer and get through it together. But before we do that, I will share my screen. Okay. Okay, so we're going to skip the introduction this time since we already did it. And we're going to move forward to dive into the next part of the talk. So I'm going to be discussing, as we said, a key preliminary step for any data science problem, which is pre-processing our data. So data pre-processing is defined as the process of preparing raw data to make it suitable for building and for training a machine learning model. The point of data preprocessing is to encode and organize our data so that the algorithm can easily parse it. There's a saying in data science and machine learning you might have heard before that goes garbage in, garbage out. And what this means is that if we're going to feed a machine learning algorithm garbage data, then we are going to inevitably get out a model that is also garbage. So it's important that we pre-process our data in order to create the best model possible for whatever task we're trying to solve and get the best results that we can. So there's tons and tons of different steps involved in data preprocessing. I'm going to list off a bunch of them now. So we've got data cleaning and feature engineering, which we'll discuss in a little bit. But there's other steps too. There's one-hot encoding. There's splitting the data into training and testing and validation sets. There's feature scaling. There are things called box-Cox transformation. You have to handle outliers in your data, and you can perform dimensionality reduction. And I mean, those are just some examples that I can give you right now. There's many other steps that you can take, but there are resources on Korbit, and I encourage you to look through them after I've demoed to you the platform today, and you can use them to help you kind of understand all of the different steps of data preprocessing. So feel free, when you want to learn more, to check out Korbit and the resources we have there. All right, so the first step we decided we would discuss is data cleaning, which is the process of finding and dealing with incomplete, incorrect, inaccurate, or irrelevant parts of our data set. And this data preprocessing step is just really important to make sure that the raw data that we start with is suitable for a machine learning algorithm. So there are many different tasks involved in the step of data cleaning. And I'm letting you know now that you will not always be performing the same series of tasks. It depends very greatly on the data that you are presented with. So I'm going to mention some of them now so that you can have an idea as to what's involved in data cleaning. But every time you have a data set, your cleaning process is going to be a little bit different. All right, so one common task that you're going to encounter is to deal with missing values in a data set. So one approach to do this is to just remove rows, so data points, or to remove columns, so features or predictive variables that have too many missing values. And then as an alternative to simply removing, you can apply a process called imputation. So this is the process of replacing missing data with substituted values. For example, if we're only missing a few entries in one column of our data set, which is one feature, it might make more sense to fill those entries rather than to remove the entire column and lose all of the information that that feature holds. So there's lots of different ways to do this, and choosing which way you want to approach this problem depends, obviously, once again, on the situation at hand. One simple example that I'll give to you now is to just fill the missing entries with the mean, median, or mode value of that feature. So if we're missing a handful of values in one feature, say it's a numeric feature and the mean value is 10, then we'll just plug 10 into all the spots that are missing values. All right, so beyond dealing with missing values, data cleaning can also include checking for and eliminating duplicate entries. That's pretty self-explanatory. You just don't want to have duplicate data. And also other steps. And there are, as I said before, a lot of steps possible for data cleaning. And really, we want to go through the data set. The end goal is that we ensure that it is organized, accurate, and whole so that we can continue on properly solving our machine learning problem. All right, so the other sub-step that we said we'd discuss is feature engineering. So this is essentially the process of creating new features from the data that we already have. And there are many different ways that we can do this and reasons why we would want to do this. So for instance, I'll go through a few to give you an idea of what reasons we might have for doing this. The first reason that I'm going to give as an example is wanting to get features from a time series. A time series is a type of data set that includes data points over time that are measuring the same thing. So for instance, we could have a time series that tells us data about the weather outside every 10 minutes or so. And we can use feature engineering to create new features that tell us and our machine learning algorithm how our data is changing over time. So going along with this weather example, we could engineer a feature that tells us how the temperature has changed from the last time that we took a measurement by providing us a simple difference. Or we could ask and engineer a new feature that tells us what the average temperature is over the last 10 measurements that we took, or the last 100 measurements that we took. So if you can just see these 3 examples I gave you, there's really a lot of possibilities that we can use to engineer features from a time series. Another thing that we can do to extract features, another thing we can do for feature engineering is to extract features from high volume data. So for example, say we have a data set of 1,000 4x6-inch images. And these images have pretty good resolution. So they're like 1,200 by 1,800 pixels, which is the average for a 4x6 picture that you'd see. But if you multiply 1,200 by 1,800 pixels, you get over 2 million pixels. And then if you consider that we have 1,000 images, we now have over 2 billion pixels altogether. And then again, if you consider that these images might be colored and not just black and white, all of these pixels can hold more than one number, since they will have a number for the red, green, and blue values held in the pixel. So you can see how we clearly went from 1,000 images all the way to like 6 billion pixels very quickly. And the amount of data that we have ends up becoming very astronomical and too large to deal with. So we can use feature engineering to help us actually deal with this data when we have way too much. So we can use feature extraction, which is a technique in feature engineering. And some ways that you can do this are statistical analysis of what potentially you can pull out of the image that are important features. So one example of how you might like to do this is principal component analysis, which is a statistical tool you might have heard of before, but there are other techniques for feature extraction too. The point is to say that it might be important to apply feature engineering when you have way too much data. All right, so these are just 2 examples of what feature engineering can do for us, but there are a million other ways that this data preprocessing technique can help us in our machine learning algorithms. So to sum up, we talked about data preprocessing and 2 of its key steps, which are data cleaning and feature engineering. And I'll see now if anybody has any questions. And I have to reshare my screen, so I share the right tab, and then I will present a demo for you guys.
Yeah, so before we go into the demo, which is the interactive part, I will be taking any questions on the chat box if any of you have any. So I'll give that a minute. I know you guys also have a hackathon. I don't know if you're participating in a hackathon coming up next. So if you have any questions, about how you can use that in your hackathon, or to possibly win as a team, that would also be a good time to ask. Well, I don't have any details on the hackathon, but I'm pretty sure Richard and Shazia would. So, yeah.
Yeah, so regarding the hackathon, we will be sending out information on our Facebook page very soon. So just stay tuned. It will be very exciting. We are actually partnering with Microsoft to launch a AI challenge that is also focused on NLP, natural language processing. So that is super related to this topic in Sabina's research area. So just stay tuned for it.
I'll start setting up the demo, but as we said, feel free to ask any questions if they pop up for you guys. All right. So please let me know if you can see the Korbit homepage. Okay, good. So I'm going to sign up with a little test account so you guys can all experience signing up for Korbit, and we'll send you the link after so that you can sign up with your own real account if that's what you'd like to do. So these are a set of introductory questions. I'm going to answer kind of some generic answers, but you should always go through and answer them truthfully in order to have the curriculum organized for how you would like it to be. It's asking me about my background, the knowledge that I have in math and coding, how I'd like to learn. I really like coding. and I'm going to spend so much time on Korbit, it's going to be ridiculous. And now my name is Sabina. My work email is, you'll have to actually put your actual email, but I'm going to do korbit.test, which is a sneaky way for us Korbit employees to make test accounts. It needs one symbol. Okay, and I will agree. So after all this, I get to load up my own homepage, which has a curriculum based on the questions that I just answered. It is directed to what the questions I answered and what I'm looking to learn and the knowledge that I already have. So you can see this is what our platform looks like. You have a series of maps that are kind of like a video game structure, and they lead you through different topics. And you can click on these to learn about what they're titled as. And then on the side over here, you also have your skills. So as you start to complete, we call them submodules, and this is a whole module. But as you start to complete little topics, you'll progress in the skills that you selected to learn. But since we're talking about data preprocessing, I'm going to scroll down and start the data preprocessing video so that we can experience it all together. I'm going to have to scroll very far down to find it. Here we are. Okay, so there's a whole, as I said, there's a lot of information on Korbit about data preprocessing, and you can see here there's a whole module on it. And there's all of these videos for you to watch, but I'm just going to start with the overview so that you guys get an idea. And then if you'd like to sign up on your own, you can have more of an experience going through it. So we'll start off right away. So Korbit here is talking to me like a chat, and that's how Korbit is structured. This is the first video, and you'll see it's a 7-minute video. They're normally 5 to 7 minutes. And I'll play the first 30 seconds for you, but I'm not going to play the whole thing. Funnily enough, I think this is my voice, so prepare yourself for more of me.
In this module, we're going to have a high-level discussion about data preprocessing. There are many other modules that fall under this umbrella, so we're going to look at an overview of them and why it is important to preprocess our data. Before we implement...
All right, so I won't subject you to watching that whole video on a Zoom call altogether, but I would suggest always to watch the video all the way through when you're learning with Korbit, because you're going to need what is brought up in the video to answer any of the questions. But since I'm here with you, guiding you along, we'll say that we watched the whole thing and we'll click move on and jump forward. So after you've watched this first video, you get to encounter exercises that Korbit can give you. And she can give you mathematical type exercises, questions like the one you see here that is asking for a definition or for a written answer. And then you can also encounter programming exercises, which is super cool. And they normally come at the end of the module, but they're great fun. And Korbit is great at isolating errors in your code to help you get the correct solution. So considering that I brought this up a little while ago, does anybody have an answer they'd like to have me type in for what does garbage in, garbage out mean? Huda, if you're looking at the chat, I can't see it, so read it out to me if something comes up.
Absolutely, I am eyeing it like a hawk.
All right, if nobody has an answer, that's okay, but anything you'd like to see, we want to see if Korbit can answer us.
Okay, so we got an answer. So from Richard, bad data means bad performance.
All right, so just to give you a little bit of an understanding of what happened. Obviously, Korbit is running ahead of me there. Obviously, I could have answered a million different sentences to this question, right? I could have answered it in any kind of way. And the answer that we provided was analyzed by some of the machine learning algorithms built into Korbit. And she used natural language processing, which is what we were discussing earlier, to look at the answer and associate it with some of the teacher answers that were implemented, as well as other students who've encountered this question and gotten it right before. So she's trying to find a similarity relationship between these different answers, which helps her decide if your answer is correct or incorrect. So based on the answer that we provided, She analyzed other answers that she's seen and seen how similar this one is to those answers, and then told us, you know what, your answer is right. You did the question right. So that's kind of the 1 second explanation of how Korbit is able to process textual answers and give you a reason as to why you're right or wrong.
So just a quick question from Kathy. So Kathy's asking, what's the specific ML algorithm?
Well, I can't give you the specific one because there are many. She's a very complicated system because she does lots of different things, right? So she's answering our questions and she's using different evaluation metrics and trying to surpass a threshold to check if your answer is correct or incorrect. But she does lots of other things and she's a complicated network. So for example, if I got a question wrong, she's going to provide me with a hint. And there are 5 or 6 different ways that Korbit knows how to give a hint. She can give you a multiple choice question. She can give you one of the teacher's hints that the data science teachers write in when they're writing the questions. She can define a topic for you or define a definition of a term that was encountered in the video. And she can do all these other things. So there's lots of different layers to Korbit. It's not as though it's kind of like one algorithm that sorts out your answer right or wrong. It's a very complicated system that is overlapping all together to have this conversation with you. Okay. Does anybody have an idea of what one-hot encoding is or the answer to this question? If not, obviously we didn't watch the video, so no stress.
Okay, we got an answer. So from Kiaresh, okay, I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but ASCII?
ASCII, AS, yeah, it's a kind of like textual alphabet, but not quite. So one-hot encoding is a kind of transformation that is often used in data preprocessing that essentially takes a categorical variable. So something like, what's a good example? Let's say there's a categorical variable in our data set that says, what's your sex? And the options are female, female, male, or other. And those are the 3 options that we have in our data set. And when we're trying to actually run our algorithm, we need to imply one-hot encoding in order to be able to make all these variables into binary variables so that the algorithm can actually process them, because the algorithm needs to deal with numbers, not like female, male. You know, it wouldn't really know what that meant. So you one-hot encode them and you make the female, male, or other variable into 3 variables. So one is female, and either that can be yes or no. One is male, and that can be yes or no. And then one is other, and that can be yes or no, which are encoded by 0 and 1. So the answer to this question is actually categorical variables. I hope I explained that. But if you're still confused, you can go on Korbit and watch the video on one-hot encoding, which will explain it better than I did in 2 seconds just then. Here's another thing that Korbit does. She gives me an alternate way to solve the problem. So if we read the question again, the actual question is asking me, it transforms from one type into another. So like I said, we went from categorical to binary variables. So Korbit is telling me like the rest of the solution that I didn't really fully grasp in my answer. Does anybody want to give I'm trying to see what time it is. Maybe we're a little bit over time. So I guess I will field any other questions and then stop the demo because I don't want to keep anybody past what they committed to.
Okay, we have a question from Ashok. So in terms of understanding our sentence and generation of sentences, what NLP algorithm is being used, if you can share?
Okay, so once again, it's difficult because it's a collection. It's not as though I'm applying, you know, say, some algorithm to do one step. The model works as a layered network of different algorithms, and it's using different transformations and different transformer models in order to process. So there's a couple different steps it takes, and it's waiting to find a good enough score. So for example, the first step it takes is looking to see if it matches any of the teacher solutions exactly or closely. And if it's good enough already, then the model say, yeah, we're fine, let's move on. That person answered the question correctly. But if it isn't sure, then it has to continue on further steps, applying different models. You can always contact support at Korbit AI if you'd like to learn more about the exact process. But I also don't want to say too much because I don't want to say anything I'm not supposed to say when I don't know if I should say it or not. But hopefully that gave you an understanding of some overview of how Korbit is working.
Okay, we have another question from Richard. When you receive a machine learning task, how much effort in proportion to the rest of the project should one spend on data pre-processing?
I personally would say astronomically more, because there's definitely in some class, a teacher's going to tell you it should be like 40% or 30% or something like that. I don't know. But definitely the point of data preprocessing is going to enhance whatever machine learning solution that you can achieve by making the data as readable as possible by your machine learning algorithm. The step of feature engineering that we were discussing before is going to have a huge impact on how well your model is able to predict if it's able to perform regression or classification or whatever else your problem might be. It will have a huge impact based on what data that you feed it. So the whole garbage in, garbage out is just kind of like a saying, whatever, but it's really critical to being able to properly solve a machine learning problem. So you'll have to refer to whatever class you're learning about the basics of machine learning in for the exact percentage, because I can't remember it off the top of my head, but you should definitely be focusing heavily on data preprocessing before you even consider thinking about what algorithm you should be using and how to solve the problem best, because you want the data to be clear and organized and as informative as possible before you actually embark on solving your problem.
Okay, great. Let's see if there's any more questions. If not, we're going to wrap up today's talk.
Yeah.
All righty.
You're welcome. And here, let me send, it's just, if you want to check out Korbit for yourself, you can just type in your search bar, Korbit AI, and create an account. You can create one for free.
Yeah, to me, I feel like watching this demo makes me want to learn more about data science and machine learning, and also because getting these tools, these backgrounds allows you to build something like what Korbit AI is doing, what Korbit is achieving.
Exactly.
I think it's an amazing accomplishment. It's a very cool concept, and it really works. Makes me want to get employed by Korbit AI at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. And hopefully Korbit will become self-sufficient enough that she will teach you everything you need to know to make an exact replica of herself.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you everyone for listening tonight, and thank you Huda, Ansona, and Sabina for sharing with us Korbit's development on delivering personalized online education and a very valuable workshop on data science. And we will be, so if anyone is interested to rewatch this workshop, it will be on YouTube in a couple of hours. And we will also be sending out an email follow-up containing the link that directs you to learn more using the Korbit's AI platform with a premium account for free. So that is very exciting. And until then, we'll see you in our next UTMIST event.